For many years, researchers and scientists have been sending missions to space to provide yet another answer to the mysteries beyond our clouds. While these missions have achieved countless remarkable discoveries, there is still so much that remains a mystery. Some discoveries still remain a mystery today, and one of these ongoing and enigmatic discoveries is that of an empty bubble. In the 1970s, while scientists were analyzing their gathered data, they discovered something strange. Containing our planet Earth, its stars, and its solar system is a gigantic void in space. Scientists call this massive space of oblivion the local bubble. Some groundbreaking discoveries have become a foundation of many of our rising technologies and inventions in the present. When scientists sent an object to the moon's surface and discovered that surface to be solid, they immediately worked on spacesuits and sent people to walk on it years later. When researchers found out that there are other galaxies in space, they were inspired to build probes that could reach stellar space and explore the different galaxies existing in the vast universe. Space discoveries became an inspiration for our researchers and scientists in aiming for yet another excellent milestone for the progress of science. The exploration of space is never just for entertainment of our curiosity, but its primary aim is to understand how space moves and works. This prestigious mission to understand everything about space started with the first satellite, Sputnik 1. Launched in 1957, Sputnik 1 became the first foundation of space exploration missions. Its purpose might have been just for a radio test, but the success of its launch opened doors for the thought that it is never impossible to reach what's out there. The Sputnik 1 mission inspired the other probes and spacecraft that have contributed greatly to the exploration of space. From the Apollo series, the Mariners and Voyager twins, to the Mars probes. These space missions have largely provided an answer in understanding the mystery that lies in the endless blanket of our universe. And one of these great mysteries is the discovery of the local bubble. For decades, the sighting of an empty chamber-like zone that was found 1,000 light-years away from the solar system had been a subject of inquiry. Just what really is this empty hole in space? Scientists first speculated about this mysterious hole in the vast blanket of space in the universe way back in the 1970s. They theorized that this empty hole was shaped because of the explosions of stars, leaving remnants of crater-like cavities in its wake. However, due to the lack of resources and high-end technologies to help scrutinize the subject more, the speculation about the local bubble still hangs as a question. It was in January 2022 that scientists confirmed this cavity-like hole in space was indeed formed due to supernovae events. It was traced that the first explosion that created the first hole in this bubble was 14 million years ago. And since then, supernovae events have contributed more and more to the expansion of this bubble. Astronomers at the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, and the Space Telescope Science Institute published a research paper that established the theory of the local bubble's origin. Scientists calculated the bubble's rate of expansion from its past and current paths of the new stars developing on its surface by using data from the European Space Agency's Gaia mission. By using specific software, the team was able to visualize the data and map the asymmetrical bubble. In their space-time animation, they have presented their conclusion that the local bubble began when a star exploded 14 million years ago. This event created the first ever space cavity near our solar system, and after the first supernovae, 15 more explosions burst inside, pushing the gas outward. The bubble was traveling at around 60 miles or 95 kilometers per second when it first began to develop, and at present it is still growing at a rate of 4 miles or 6 kilometers per second. Astronomers have suspected that the solar system sits right in the middle of the bubble, for it is much older than the first supernovae event that first shaped the bubble. About 5 million years ago, our own Sun crossed into the local bubble, where it currently sits near the middle. Catherine Zucker, the study's lead author and an astronomer at the Center for Astrophysics, said that when the local bubble first started forming, the Earth was over 1,000 light-years away. We think the Earth entered the bubble about 5 million years ago, which is consistent with estimates of radioactive iron isotope deposits from supernovas in the Earth's crust from other studies. The local bubble is a bit of a misnomer since it doesn't have an actual bubble shape. The bubble appears to have a similar shape to an hourglass, but is not identically similar. It also has open-ended edges bursting into the galactic halo, which sometimes confuses its description as a bubble for a tube. Inside the bubble are numerous cloudlets grouped in sheet-like systems near the bubble's boundary. Our Sun, along with several neighboring stars, is embedded in these organized cloudlets. This event is known as the local FLUFF complex. The local bubble isn't the only bubble in space. In fact, the origin of the local FLUFF complex was made into existence from the collision of two bubbles. The floating islands of cloudlets are the product of the Loop 1 superbubble, a much bigger bubble, expanding up against our own cavity. The same with our local bubble, this superbubble was produced by supernovae and star winds in the Scorpius-Centaurus association, located roughly 500 light-years away from our solar system. As Loop 1 and the local bubble met, the local FLUFF complex was then created at the boundary between the two. About 50 to 130 light-years away, the cloudlets started to invade our local bubble through this border. Furthermore, the Sun is traveling almost perpendicular to the edge of a cloudlet known as the local interstellar cloud and is located extremely near it. There appear to be several tunnels that branch out from the local bubble and open into more cavities as they pass through the dense gas in the area around them. The interconnecting cavities and tunnels in space, which have been compared similarly to a sponge and Swiss cheese, were generally created by supernovas, if not with strong stellar winds. When these ruins of the supernova even encounter one another, they merge into different and numerous passageways, creating the countless cavities present in the vast expanse of the universe. If the Milky Way is made up entirely of this network of interconnected gaseous cavities, it would be a startling confirmation of a 30-year-old notion about the Milky Way. The discovery of the local bubble does not only serve as obvious evidence of space being a blanket of beautiful chaos. On the contrary, the discovery serves as a door to opening up more ideas and concepts about the origins of the stars and how solar systems are formed in space. Harvard professor and Center for Astrophysics astronomer Alyssa Goldman said that it is an incredible detective story, driven by both data and theory. We can piece together the history of star formation around us using a wide variety of independent clues: supernova models, stellar motions, and exquisite new 3D maps of the materials surrounding the local bubble. Researchers suggest that more star-forming bubbles are likely very common throughout the Milky Way galaxy and the next. More cosmic bubbles are recently being mapped and compared by researchers in order to provide a complete perspective of their size, form, and position. With this discovery at hand, astronomers can now piece together how these bubbles work as nurseries for stars. They can also provide a more detailed answer as to how these bubbles interact with one another and how galaxies like the Milky Way evolved through time. All these can now be possible by mapping out where the bubbles lie in the vastness of space. It is important to be enlightened about the roots of our origins. By doing so, we remember how little we are in the scale of our universe. But it also reminds us of how important our lives and discoveries are in the scale of greater things. For the first time, mankind has attempted to retrace the history of our galaxy, and this scientific breakthrough shall never be forgotten. Discussions about space and exploration can honestly be addictive, and if you want to learn more about space, you might want to check the discoveries on Mars that you will never believe.